Welcome, listeners. Based on a book, the podcast that volunteers as tribute so you don't have to. I'm Lindsey, your capital appointed host for this season's Hunger Games episode.
And I'm Crystal. If I were in the arena, I would die of infection after a minor injury.
And I'm Keri, and I sense that my reading slump is officially over.
And today, we are stepping into the arena of dystopia, rebellion, and emotionally confusing love triangles as we break down The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins and its 2012 film adaptation starring Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson. Hutcherson.
Mm-hmm.
This is our final episode of our first in a series theme and the final episode of season 2.
Woo!
Over the past few weeks, we've covered magical worlds, polar bears in hot air balloons, emotionally confusing billionaires, and now kids fighting to the death for capital entertainment. Truly, we've been on a journey. So grab your Mockingjay pins, avoid the nightlock berries, and may the odds be ever in your favor. And with that, I'd like to welcome you all to the 74th Annual Hunger Games. In the ashes of rebellion, Panem rose. It's a gleaming capital at its heart, 12 districts at its feet. As punishment for their past defiance, each district must offer up one boy and one girl to fight to the death in a televised spectacle. When Katniss Everdeen steps forward to take her sister's place, she becomes more than a tribute. She becomes a spark. In an arena where every sound could be your last, every smile could be a threat, and survival is the ultimate rebellion, one girl must decide what kind of player she'll be. My hand's being attacked.
I'm pretty
Little
sure
wants to be a part of the episode.
She's
Little
volunteering as
volunteers.
tribute. I think this is our first ever reread for all three of us. So with that, I kind of want to start our ratings with Crystal.
Oh,
Crystal, what'd you think?
I was terrified to reread this. I'm not gonna lie. I knew I would like it. I've always loved the story. I've always loved the book. But I was really kind of scared because, like, to be fair, our world right now is kind of scary. And this book highlights a lot of scary things that could happen if, the world around us doesn't wake up and kind of take care of things. You know what I mean? And so I wasn't sure I wanted to read this, but I'm glad I did. I cried through the whole thing for the most part. Knowing what was coming, I would start crying before it even happened because I knew it was coming, It hit me hard, but in all the right places. And it made me really reflect on what I feel like I can do as a citizen now to make sure that our world doesn't go into a dark direction. It reminded me of the things that I'm responsible for as a citizen of this community. And it just really, I don't know, I gave it 5 volunteers because I really hope that my community would volunteer when the need arises. But there's nothing about this story that makes me go, oh, I wish they had done it like this, or I wish it was written this way, or I wanted to see more whatever, or less, nothing. I have no notes, no criticism of this story at all. And to me, that's a solid 5. That's it. No notes. Everybody should read it.
I love that. Keri?
I totally agree with literally everything Crystal said. Like you said, this is a reread for me. I literally get emotional just thinking about it because I never thought, this was always this is a 5-star series to me. I read this when I was really young, loved it. But it never occurred to me that this is a series that I would want to continuously reread over and over again. And rereading it literally opened my eyes. Like, this is on the level, like, of rereading, like, ACOTAR to me. Like, I've reread ACOTAR a million times, and I'm like, oh, this should be up there with that series of rereading it multiple times. And I gave it 6 Mockingjays because this is like God tier series. This right here showed that it is a God tier series. This is what reading is about. It's inspirational. It's everything. It is literally everything, and I can't believe it's like sitting on my shelf and I'm not continuously coming back and rereading my favorite scenes and rereading this book all the time. So, like, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm not doing, like, this isn't sitting on my, like, God tier shelf right now. Like, this is crazy. So, this is like, it's going up in my 6-star series list forever.
I am so excited because I think this is going to be our first perfect score for an episode because I gave it 5 Mockingjays.
Yes!
I was also really scared to read this because I read it about the time that Catching Fire came out. I was a little late, but before the movie came out. And I was afraid to go back and read it because I remember I enjoyed it when it came out and I read it for the first time. And I thought it was going to live up to it. I thought I was going to be, older and it just wasn't going to hit the same. And I was pleasantly surprised that it may have surpassed my original read.
100%.
Yep.
That's exactly how I felt.
So I was super excited that we actually covered this one. And again, I remember when this movie was coming out and like 50 Shades of Grey, the casting for this movie was driving people crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at one point, Emma Roberts, Chloe Grace Moretz, Haley Steinfeld, Abigail Breslin, Emily Browning, and Brie Larson were all considered to play Katniss. And I specifically remember that I really wanted Emily Browning to be Katniss because I was obsessed with her.
Yeah. And Katniss is like an icon in pop culture in general.
Yes.
Like, it's just like a very iconic character, period.
Yep.
In general. And I remember casting Josh Hutcherson. That was my peak childhood Keri. That was her peak crush. Was Josh Hutcherson, Bridge to Terabithia, Firehouse Dog. I was in love with him then. So I was like, oh my gosh. Like, literally, I had posters of him on my wall.
That's cute.
It was like that, Jonas Brothers, and Ian Somerhalder.
Well, speaking of PETA, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Alexander Ludwig, and even Evan Peters, they were all considered to play PETA. And then Hutcherson eventually was cast, and then Ludwig was later cast as Kato. So he did at least make the movie.
Yeah, he's in so many like of those like teen dystopian or like fantasy type movies and stuff. Like, he's always in something.
Yeah, I knew his face looked really familiar.
Yeah.
We also had John C. Reilly, who was originally going to play Haymitch before it went to Woody Harrelson. And then we also have the return of Stanley Tucci as Caesar Flickerman. So, fantastic cast for this movie.
Absolutely.
And then along with 50 Shades, there was also some controversy for the story. There was a lot of discussion over the years about how The Hunger Games might have been inspired by the 1999 novel Battle Royale and its 2000 film adaptation. And Quentin Tarantino even called The Hunger Games a direct ripoff of this series. But author Suzanne Collins has said in interviews that she had never even heard of Battle Royale until she had already submitted her manuscript, and her editor was actually the one who pointed out the similarities, but told her not to read the book, saying something like, you don't want that world in your head. So Collins said that her main inspiration came from Greek mythology, specifically the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur, where Athens was forced to send 7 boys and 7 girls into a deadly maze as a sacrifice. And interestingly, the author of Battle Royale, I think it's Koushun Takami, said that he was inspired by Lord of the Flies, and Stephen King has even jumped into the debate, pointing out that similar premises have shown up in his earlier works too, like his own novels, The Running Man and The Long Walk.
Mm-hmm.
Little agrees.
She totally agrees.
She loves Stephen King.
Yeah,
loves
she
Stephen
does.
King.
She does love Stephen King. She hates Pet Cemetery, though.
Yeah,
Fair.
makes
Fair.
sense.
But before we actually dive further into the book movie breakdown, are there any other non-spoilerly thoughts or topics we want to cover?
I will say something that's interesting. The oh my gosh, what is his name? Liam Hemsworth, that plays Gale. He actually originally went for Peta's character, an audition for Peta's character, and they're like, no, and gave it to.
No.
They like, no, you're gonna be Gale.
I actually thought it was funny because Jennifer Lawrence and Liam Hemsworth are both naturally blonde, and they dyed their hair brunette for their characters, and Josh Hutcherson is naturally brunette and dyed his hair blonde.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always love watching, like, I remember even when it first came out, Hunger Games first came out, I loved watching their interviews and behind the scenes because Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson, they have such good chemistry. Not romantic chemistry. It's like very good friendship outside of the movie. And they're just so funny and so fun together. I love that.
I did read that they were goofing around and she ended up kicking him in the head and gave him a concussion.
Yeah. During filming.
Damn.
Where he was completely knocked out. Yeah.
I just want to point out that Jennifer Lawrence is from Kentucky.
So is Josh Hutcherson.
Keeping up the long tradition of Kentucky leading ladies, though, like Rosemary Clooney and Ashley Judd. So I just, anytime
There
I
you
can
go.
like rep Kentucky as someplace really cool.
You got Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson. So
Yeah.
I'm
There you
telling
go.
you. We got some great actors in here. A few not so great, but a lot of really good, like George Clooney. I'm just saying.
Just
Like,
don't talk about the not so great
nope.
ones. It's fine.
Nope. Not saying it.
Yeah, don't.
Well, okay. I guess if we're ready to break it down.
Let's jump in. Or
Okay.
Yeah.
This
jump into the
episode,
arena.
Let's not do that.
No.
especially not after or before the first 60 seconds, because
No.
then
Yeah.
you're out.
Then you're done.
But this episode does contain spoilers for both the book and the movie. If you haven't read or watched and you want to go in fresh, now's your chance to pause and come back after you've volunteered as tribute. And as a reminder, The Hunger Games includes themes of violence, war, death, and child endangerment. So listen with care. All right, welcome back, tributes.
That might be the shortest content warning list that Lindsey has ever given.
Yeah, on
It's young
any
adult.
episode.
It's young adult PG-13.
Yeah.
Can only go so far.
I mean, honestly, is this like the first PG-13 that Lindsey has done in like a while?
It might be.
Season 2. In all of season 2, this is my first PG-13.
Well, I think Warm Bodies may have been PG-13, but other than
okay.
that, I think this is the only one.
Okay, so it's my first episode of season 2. I'm going to start it with a PG-13 and end it with a PG-13.
Yeah.
You get chaos in between.
Exactly.
Oh my. Wait. Warm Bodies was also kind of a Romeo Juliet star-crossed lovers, and now we're doing Hunger Games.
Yep.
Oh Lord. We really did bookend this season real well.
Apparently I have a theme.
Yep.
It's that Grump and Sunshine. In the Grump and Sunshine.
Yep. Yep.
That's exactly
Just
what
a
it
little
is.
bit.
Okay, so we're gonna go scene by scene. We're gonna highlight what they've changed from the book and the movie, what stayed the same, what hit harder, book or film. But in both the book and the movie, Panem is introduced as a dystopian future where the capital rules over 12 districts. District 1 is luxury items. District 2 is masonry and defense. District 3 is general electronics. District 4 is fishing. District 5 is power or electricity. District 6 is transportation. District 7 is lumber. District 8 is textiles. District 9 is grain. District 10 is livestock. District 11 is agriculture. And District 12 is coal.
Mm-hmm.
And the book does give us more context as far as who Katniss is. She lives in the seam where people are starving and hunting is illegal but necessary for survival. In the movie, this is shown more visually than is told because District 12 looks bleak and gray. And
Yeah. Like the aesthetics of it
Mhm.
is very specific.
Yes.
It really
It's
reminded me
very
of like the Wizard of Oz movie where everything starts out black and white.
Mhm.
You know, it kind of had that vibe. You know, it was in full color, but all the colors were super subdued and super just dull and worn out. You know, everything looked, you know, like hand-me-downs you'd washed 10,000 times and started to lose their color, you know?
Mhm.
Even in his Dark Materials TV show, they kind of like do that in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing it a lot more as we analyze different movies and TV shows, how they're using colors in the scene to portray what is going on
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
in the show, what the vibe is. I think that's interesting.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Also
It-
in the music, because this is done by James Newton Howard, the soundtrack is.
Mhm.
And this, all the Hunger Games soundtracks are so iconic and
Mm-hmm.
so good. I listen to these damn soundtracks. Every time I'm reading a fantasy book, these are the soundtracks I have on in the background because they are so epic and just so freaking good. Like everybody has a specific song too. Like if you'll notice, like there's like the main like Hunger Games score, but there's adjusted songs that are specific to Peta, specific to Katniss, specific to Prim, her sister. And you'll tell whose song is playing for a scene or specific to like Katniss and Peta together, Katniss and Gale together.
Mhm.
And I'll hear it every single time and it's just so good. I love it so much.
That's such a good touch.
Yeah, I love it.
Mhm. But in the book, we get Katniss's inner thoughts. We get to hear her resentment toward the capital, her fears, and her survival instincts. And I think the internal dialogue is a big part of what makes the book so powerful.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There's a character we meet like in this very first bit that's left out of the movie. It's Madge, the mayor's daughter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I understand why she was left out of the movie. I totally get it. But I think she's super important because she's the mayor's daughter. She didn't ever have to hunt for food. In fact, Katniss and Gale sell some of their finds and catches or whatever to the mayor. Like they had enough money that they didn't go without. But of course, because she's a kid, her name still goes into the Hunger Games draw or whatever, just like every other kid. But because we're getting Katniss's perspective, we hear that like she is kind of resentful of Madge, but she knows she shouldn't hold it against her because Madge didn't have anything to do with where she was born. She was born the mayor's daughter. She was lucky that way. And I think that moment of it feels kind of like the haves and have-nots, but even Katniss recognizes that they don't really have that much either. It's not, they're not really that great either. And I think it's a really good description of how governments really do tend to pit the lower class citizens or the, up against each other. And I feel like I don't want to say that it was missing in the movie, because it really, we didn't need it in the movie, but that little extra perspective of these books is just kind of a little bit more of that thought process of Katniss, a little bit more of that perspective, I think, is really what made this book make me cry through the whole book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, whenever I was noticing a difference later, specifically to that character, I had looked up something about that character, and I may have seen a little spoiler about a future book that I have not read, and where that character is significant. So, and I know more movies have been made, so I'm like, how's this character going to be brought in if they were never brought into the movies? So I think that's interesting. Just a thought.
Yeah. Katniss's younger sister, Prim, she's 12. It's the first year her name is included in the drawing, and the way the drawing works is similar to a lottery system. When you turn 12, your name is added once to the drawing, and it increases by one each year until you're 18. However, for families that are desperate for extra food rations, each year you can enter your name an additional time for each member in your home. So this is on top of your initial entry. So at this point, Katniss has her name in the drawing 20 times, and Gail's name is in the drawing 42 times.
Mm-hmm.
And in this instance, 42 is not the answer.
No.
Definitely not. Lindsay's laughing at her own.
It is the
I just like how
opposite.
you both said no at the same time. No.
No, it's not.
But you
not
also
the
weren't
answer.
impressed with the joke, so you were like, no.
It is not the answer to life, the universe, or anything.
It's true.
Not in this book.
Not in this world.
Mm-mm.
So at the reaping, of course, Prim's name is drawn, and Katniss volunteers in her place. And the movie nails this moment emotionally. But the book adds the extra weight with Katniss's fear and guilt for not protecting Prim better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like
something
her
in the
whole
movie.
I'm not gonna cry. Like,
Yeah.
we don't get to see that we kind of see it in the movie, but hearing her, I can't let them see me cry. I can't let them think I'm weak. I can't, like, in the game started this moment. The minute her, like, she volunteered, she knew the game began. And we don't get to quite see that in the movie. And again, this is God tier book because of that,
Yeah, I so unexpectedly, like, I've read this before. I've seen the movie hundreds of times. Like, I've rewatched this movie tons of times. And when I got to this part in the book, I was like crying a lot. And I got to the part in the movie and I started crying. I'm like, wow, that hit me way harder than I expected. And I think it's because it was just written so well. And also, even in the movie where she's like trying to prep Prim because she's like, you've never done this before. You've never been through this process. This is what they're going to do. They're going to prick your finger. They're going to do all these things whenever you go up there. And also, it's like she's worried for Prim, but she's like, she's only in there one time. She's only in there one time. I'm in there a lot more than she is. Like, it's scary, but I'm in there more than she is. And then her name being pulled is just like the devastation is astronomical. And it's like, I don't know, it's just written so well, and it just really emotionally impacted me a lot.
Was that older sister in you too?
Yeah.
And the need to protect your younger sister.
Yeah, and it like made me like cry. I had to like sit back for a second because I was like, picturing myself in the situation where like you're trying to protect your sister. And also, like her at this point being terrified because, she's also had to take care of her sister, for a really long time because her mom had been, emotionally, kind of just like out of the
Mhm.
situation because of her father's death. So she
Mhm.
had to kind of pick up the pieces and feed her family. So she's kind of been just like in this space of like, must protect family, must protect family, must protect sister, keep them fed, keep them alive. And, it's just not a question to go up there and, save your sister when
Mhm.
she's in this situation.
Exactly. And for the boy tribute, Peter Malark, the son of a baker,
Pizza
is
Malak.
chosen. Peter Malark. Peeta and Katniss already have history because he saved her from starvation when she was 11.
And Peta's story, so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't catch this. I'm reading this. I'm just like, I love Katniss. Katniss is great. I love her. I'm not really paying attention to Peta so much because, when you're younger, you're just connecting to like the main character a ton. You're not super analyzing a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty young when I read this. Peta's story, so sad. And just like him, he's just like incredible. I love Peta so much. I love everything about Peta. And he is just like amazing. I love him as a character, and I can't believe that he's like not like one of my favorite like heroes. Whenever I think of like what's my like top, favorite male main characters in stories, I never think of Peta
Now you will.
ever. And now I'm like, hello? Hello, this amazing person is here. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's me yelling at myself.
Well, Keri, you also mentioned in part 1 of our Golden Compass coverage that you see a lot of different perspectives in the adaptation in the book or in the or excuse me, in the movie or in the series. And in the movie, you do get to see more than what is read in the book because the book is told from Katniss's perspective. You
Mm-hmm.
only get her experience. But in the movie, you get to see how the games are planned, how Haymitch is coping as a mentor during the games,
Mm-hmm.
and basically the consequences of Katniss's actions. So I was really excited. I didn't actually remember that in the movie because I guess I haven't seen it since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was nice.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
it's a
And
nice
we
touch
actually
to
get
it.
to see President Snow,
Mhm.
who for the most part really isn't in the book. He's mentioned in the book, but
Mhm.
he actually is a character in the movie, and we get to see his reaction to things
Mhm.
when we didn't get to see that in the book. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's exactly why we love these adaptations, because we get to see a little bit more than what's on page.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Especially as, things escalate and as they get worse, we
Mm-hmm.
see how that affects districts, how that affects
Yep.
Snow, how that affects the game makers,
Mhm.
things like that.
So before departing for the capital, Katniss and Peeta get a chance to say their goodbyes to their friends and family. Katniss gets to see her mother and sister, and she promises her sister that she will win and she will come home. She also sees Gale, which doesn't look like it's allowed in the movie, but he kind of like forces his way into the room. And then in the book, Peeta's father comes to see Katniss as well and brings her cookies because it's a luxury. And then, like Crystal said, Madge, who was cut out of the movie, also comes to see Katniss at this point.
Mm-hmm. And she gives the pin, doesn't she?
Yeah.
At this
She gets
point
the
in the
one
book,
in the book.
yes, Madge gives Katniss the Mockingjay pin. In the movie, she gets it from trading in the market. It's like a forbidden item.
Yeah.
But on the train to the capital, we meet Ivy Trinket, who's played by Elizabeth Banks. And she has been appointed by the capital to represent District 12. She was introduced much earlier in the book. She was actually the one who was doing the reaping. So you really get to meet her on the train because Haymitch is even cut out of the reaping. It's more focused on Katniss and her reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then Haymitch Abernathy, he's the mentor and winner of the games 24 years prior. So he would have been the winner of the 40th Hunger Games. Both versions, Haymitch is a drunk and he's grumpy. And we learn that he's not just a mess, he's deeply traumatized.
Haymitch is my favorite character. Hands down.
Mm.
I
think
definitely
most people's favorite character.
I haven't
I
read
definitely
the new book.
respected him more.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't read the new book. I've heard it's good. I'm afraid to read it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't need
I
any
see
more
everyone's
tears.
reactions. I don't think so. None of us have read the 2 newest books. We've only read the trilogy,
original
the main
trilogy. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm afraid. I'm not gonna lie. I don't I mean I know we're gonna eventually get there, but I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. We're gonna see all the connections and it's gonna be great.
And
I'll be live streaming me just sobbing. It'll be fine.
and we're forcing you to read it anyway, so
I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Much like the Hunger Games, I didn't volunteer.
But also in the book, we meet an Avox girl who has been punished by the Capitol for trying to run away. She and a boy were captured in the woods outside of District 12, where Katniss and Gale regularly hunt. The boy was executed, and the girl's tongue was cut out.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
something I noticed on my reread, this is kind of going back to the Haymitch thing a little bit, but I just remembered this.
Mhm.
That so the whole thing about this is that, you know, the victors the people that are selected, they go with the victors for like a training time, right?
Mhm.
Until they go into the Hunger Games. And District 12, like no one really wins out of District 12, and they have very few victors, and it's just Haymitch there as a victor. But they actually had 2 winners out of District 12, but one of them had died.
Mm-hmm.
And only Haymitch is alive. I always thought it was just Haymitch that was a victor out of District 12. So I thought that was interesting.
That was interesting. Yeah, I caught that too. That was good.
So I was like, oh, okay. And what exactly is, I don't know if either of you know this. So Effie is just somebody that works in the Capitol and works with them.
Mm-hmm.
She's not anything to do with the victors.
No. And she even says that if, Katniss and Peeta do well, that she may get appointed to a better district. So it's just a role that she has with the Capitol, just like a representative.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I was like trying to remember if there was anything to do with, because I do hear that we get more information about this in the book that's like about Haymitch. Like about her.
I'm shipping Effie and Haymitch.
I mean, one can hope. Or not. I don't know. Effie seemed to be very well, she was very grumpy with him.
They were both pretty grumpy.
With each other.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's some backstory there.
Yeah. I don't know.
We'll find out.
I could see the spark.
I mean.
But again, Katniss is feeling guilty about this girl because she witnessed their capture and the death of the boy, but she and Gale did nothing to help. However, the Avox girl doesn't seem to hold it against her because she knows there was nothing that they could do to save them. But then the movie shows us the Capitol's excess through visuals again. They have the bright clothes, the strange food, the polished surfaces. It's very bougie.
Mm-hmm. People are starving in District 12, in a lot of districts,
Mhm.
and they are eating in excess.
Just
Mhm.
massive amounts of food everywhere, at every turn, on all the tables.
Mhm.
Everything is like, even on the train, Katniss notices the opulence of the materials that the train tables are made out of, and the chairs and the bedding, and it's just everything to excess. And
Mhm.
knowing full well that there are people all over Panem that are literally starving to death.
Mhm. And she talks about that, like, internally, like,
Mhm.
in the book.
Mhm. Yeah, we
No,
get Katniss's commentary about how disgusting and detached it all feels.
mhm.
Mhm. And I
Um,
think that's kind of reflected, like, I think Jennifer Lawrence does a really good job at,
mhm.
like, reflecting it in her emotions as she's kind of observing all this.
Mhm.
And, she's seeing, like, kinda looking at everything and, looking at the food, also looking at, like, what's going on TV and just being disgusted
Mhm.
by what's going on. I think she does a really good job of that.
Mhm.
Mhm. At this point, we also meet the design team, Senna and Portia, and they will create the outfits and the costumes that Katniss and Peeta wear throughout the games. Peeta and Katniss start training at this point, and Haymitch tells Katniss and Peeta to keep their talents under wraps, to not stand out during training until they do their one-on-ones with the game makers. So they're focusing on skills that they feel like they're lacking in, such as making a proper snare or building a fire without equipment. We also see that Katniss has a shadow. Another tribute has been
Oh.
paying close attention to her, and it isn't the career tributes. It's Rue, the girl from District 11.
Who is also 12, isn't she?
She's 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same age as Primrose.
Mm-hmm.
And she does, in the book, she kind of says that, like, everybody feels bad when a 12-year-old gets drawn. Everybody
Mhm.
feels bad when one of the young ones gets drawn.
They're, like, disturbed by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And let me tell you, knowing what happens, I'm already choked up.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
knowing what
in the
happens in
book,
this reread.
I saw her name once and started to cry. Like,
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah. And they have, like, at this point with the training and stuff, they're, like, training with, like, a bunch of different all the tributes that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the career tributes are, like, the ones that have been training, like, there are tributes in, like, the higher districts that are training basically, like, their whole lives
Mhm.
to be in the Hunger Games. Like, they wait until, like, they're 18. If they're not already put into the Hunger Games, they volunteer
Mm-hmm.
to go in.
Not
Because it's, like,
me.
all for the entertainment. It's all for the entertainment.
Mm-hmm. And finally, it is time for their one-on-ones. Since Katniss and Peeta are the last two tributes to perform, the game makers are bored, they're hungry, they aren't really paying attention. Katniss makes them notice her by shooting an arrow in their direction, hitting an apple from a roasted pig, and then storms off.
She's like, "Thank you for your consideration." With a
Beautiful.
bow.
Mm-hmm.
I love this moment in the movie because as she's storming off, she's like, "Oh shit, I can't take this bow with me," and she, like,
Yeah.
turns and hangs it back up, and then re-storms out. And that was such a Jennifer Lawrence moment, and it was
Mm-hmm.
very much a Crystal moment, because it's always when I'm like righteous indignation that, like, I do something stupid, and I'm like, "Oh wait," my little awkward, like, "But I'm still mad," and then storm away.
I would have
know?
ruined it with an apology, and I'd be like, "Oh, my bad, sorry," and then left.
Yep.
Ruined.
Can't a girl just storm off, please? Why you always gotta ruin it, folks? Just let me walk out of here with this much dignity, please.
I think it's interesting that they brought in, like, the character, what's his name? Seneca or something?
Mm-hmm.
Seneca?
Seneca Crane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
game
I
maker.
believe The game maker is just mentioned briefly in Catching Fire,
Yeah, I think so.
as the aftermath of what happens with
Mhm.
this character.
Mhm.
But they really like brought in this person because it's not mentioned in Hunger Games at all.
Right. We had no
And
idea.
yeah,
Katniss talks about the game makers,
yeah,
Mhm.
but we don't ever see this character in the book.
yeah,
Or hear of a
and
game master.
Right.
yeah. And they brought in this whole character that is briefly mentioned in Catching Fire as like a whole person with like a whole story into Hunger Games the movie,
Mhm.
which I think it was really smart and really well done.
Mhm.
And like I love that. I think that's really good.
Absolutely. I love that.
And this scene does sound so much more intense in the book because she does more than just the 3 shots that she makes in the movie. She's like rolling around and hitting all these different targets before she decides to hit the apple.
Yeah, because they're just like eating and like having like a great time with conversation up there as she's actively trying to prove herself to
Mhm.
Right.
them that they give her like a decent score because she's like fighting for her life out here.
Mhm.
Literally.
And they're like
Literally.
having a grand old time up in like the viewing area.
Mhm.
And not viewing at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, you're done.
Mhm.
You're done.
Yeah.
But this does lead her to receive a score of 11 out of 12, and PETA receives an 8.
I love Haymitch's reaction too, where like she's like expecting him to be really mad, and like Effie's like freaking out. She's like, "Oh my god, like I can't believe you did that. Like your manners, blah blah blah." And like Haymitch is like, "Great job,
He comes in
sweetheart."
with the thumbs up.
Yes.
Yep.
The super dramatic arm, completely outstretched thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Like
good.
there is no other Haymitch other than Woody Harrelson. There's no other
Absolutely.
Haymitch.
Mhm.
There's
Absolutely.
no
I
other
love it.
Haymitch. It's so like that's all I can picture in my head. It
So
was weird
perfect.
because whenever I was reading it, I thought I would just be picturing like the characters I see in the movie when I was reading it, and I really wasn't. Like I kind of wasn't. I was kind of like picturing like my own little thing.
Mhm.
But Haymitch was Woody Harrelson because
Mhm.
there's no other Haymitch.
There's just
There's
not.
literally no other Haymitch.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. He's so perfect in that
Mhm.
role. Just perfect.
He is.
Yeah.
And in
But
the
we
book,
also
he keeps calling her sweetheart, and the whole time I'm like, I'd be pissed too, girl. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can be mad.
Yeah.
he did it in the movie too, but
Yep.
it
It
I
didn't
don't
come
know
off quite as patronizing in the movie as it does in the book.
exactly.
Because
Mhm.
the way I'm reading it, he's an absolute jerk the way
Mhm.
I'm reading it.
Mhm. But we can't forget PETA's big moment, his televised confession of love,
A
which
classic.
I know Crystal hates.
I would have if I was Katniss in that moment, like all cameras are on her at this point again, showing her reaction. I don't know that I could have kept it together. I would have tried to hide under my hair, behind a plant, anything. I would like I no, I don't Grand
It's
gestures
so
are bad.
smart. It's so smart and strategic though. Because at this point, Peeta's like, all right, we gotta train separately now. And like Katniss is like kind of like upset about it. She's like, oh, like you don't want to train together anymore? Okay. And then they're like, no, we have to train separately now. Like Peeta doesn't want to train with you anymore.
Mhm.
And then pulls this crap out because
Mhm.
he's like probably thinking like, all right, like I don't have like crazy skills, but I'm very like charismatic. Like I have this like social skill. I need to utilize this social skill
Mhm.
with like a little bit of truth to it. A little
Mhm.
bit of truth with it.
Mhm.
It's so
Mhm.
good. It's so good. And it's smart. I love it.
I was blushing for Katniss. I was
Yeah.
embarrassed for her. I was
Yeah.
like,
It's like the worst thing for Katniss, but I mean, it's also a great
but it
thing
was
for
also the
Katniss.
best thing. It really
Yeah.
was.
I mean, she
Yeah.
wasn't just surprised, she was also very angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She doesn't want to appear weak, but this is exactly the look Haymitch says could save them in the games. And in the book, Katniss attacks PETA by pushing him into a vase. And the vase shatters and actually injures PETA's hands, literally right before the games.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're going into the games like the next day.
The next morning, yeah.
Yeah.
which is illegal because she attacked a tribute outside of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
But
Shame.
he's like, it's okay because he
Of
likes
course
her.
he is.
he's in
'Cause
love.
he likes her.
He's a simp.
Mm-hmm. He'd been a lover boy since the beginning.
For
Since
real.
age 5.
Since age
Yup.
5, he's been a lover boy.
Mhm.
And we love that for him.
But once we hit the arena, the movie wastes no time.
Mm-mm.
The cornucopia bloodbath is brutal. It's fast. In the book, Katniss is careful. She observes everything. We feel her strategy. We're in her head. She calculates. She analyzes. In the movie, by comparison, it's much more fast paced and action driven.
It's also shot like, I'm like, are we shooting and running with an iPhone? Like, what is happening here? Like, or somebody has like a camera and they're running with the camera. Like, it's literally like flying all over the. I mean, it's on purpose. I get that.
Right.
I totally get that. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so dizzy. Like, what is going on? But the way that it's shot, I feel like I'm running in the Hunger Games with these characters. And I think, I mean, obviously that's on purpose.
It was a
But
choice.
yeah, it was a choice. It was an artistic choice. And that was crazy. I forgot that was how it was shot when it first started.
Yeah, I forgot that too.
And it was like completely, like, you don't hear anything. It's like just like this like ringing sound as it first goes off. And it's like the camera's going all over the place, like you're running along with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I did not sign up to be in the Hunger Games right now. I feel like I'm running actively here, and I don't like it.
And you're running toward the cornucopia where you're not supposed to go.
And I'm supposed to go in the forest. Like, I'm not
Right.
supposed to be running in here.
But because the movie is so fast paced, we do lose some insight on Katniss and her survival skills and her instincts and her training. But it literally just becomes a sprint for survival. We also do lose a lot of Peeta's subtle actions because in the book, he's helping Katniss from behind the scenes, even when he's with the careers.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, it's harder to tell if he's playing both sides or just blending in with the group.
Mm-hmm.
But this is shown when the careers find Katniss after the game masters have forced the tributes into close proximity by creating a wall of fire that drives them toward the center of the arena and by shooting fireballs, which injures Katniss.
Mm-hmm.
So the careers chase Katniss into a tree, and this is also when Katniss receives her first gift from her sponsors, which is medication to heal her burns.
And I love that we see in the movie, we see Haymitch's perspective, him seeing her. And like, even in general, we're seeing like Gail's perspective, Haymitch's perspective. Like sometimes we'll see like a really quick glimpse of her mom and Prim watching the games on, like, because it's being televised everywhere for a quick second. And like, we're seeing that in the movie because obviously we don't hear about that in the book. And I like that a lot. And especially in this scene where Haymitch sees her suffering and really struggling because she's been burned and she's in a lot of pain, and him now advocating for her to get specific medicine to help her.
Yeah, we see him like schmoozing with the potential sponsors in the Capitol. And I kind of liked that.
Also, the book is much more brutal than the movie. I mean, the movie's only what, PG-13?
Yep.
So, book is a lot more brutal, specifically in this scene, like when Peeta's with the careers and they're like all together, like, and they actually send Peeta to go kill off one of like the tributes, like another girl, and he goes and does that.
And that's while
the one that
Katniss
has the
is
fire. Yeah.
while she's watching them.
Yeah.
But also while she's trapped in the tree, she's given a hint that there are deadly tracker jackers above her, which are like mutated wasps. So this is what she uses to drop on the careers, and this takes out 2 tributes.
And she gets her bow and arrow.
Right. The talk of the mutations, which are mutations, but they're called mutations in the book, and like mutts for short, where like the capital had mutated some of these creatures and organisms back during the war 75, 100 years ago, but they're still around. That creeped me out. And then to find out that not only did they create weird ass creatures to do their bidding, but stinging creature, what, like hornets, wasps? No, big no from me. That's a no. So this whole part in the book and in the movie, this was the scariest bit for me. This was the scariest bit for me. No way. A swarm like I panic.
Turned into a horror movie real
Instant
quick. I mean,
panic.
the whole thing is a horror movie.
It really is. I was panicking.
Yeah.
But this is also when we get to Rue's alliance with Katniss, which is just as heartbreaking in the book as it is the movie. And the two devise a plan to blow up the career supplies because Katniss and Rue know that they'll be helpless without them. And while Katniss is scoping out their stash, she realizes that they're booby-trapped when the tribute known as Foxface shows up to steal some of the food. And Katniss realizes that the mines that are placed around the plate when they start off at the games, if you move from the plate within the first 60 seconds, you're going to explode because they're mines. One of the boys from one of the districts has taken the mines and surrounded their supplies and reactivated them. So Katniss sets off the mines around the crates, and she attempts to make her way back to Rue. She's injured.
She also, loses her hearing in the process, which is not in the movie at all.
She does. Well, it's not.
There's like
really
a ringing
emphasized.
sound, but then it goes away.
Yeah,
but she doesn't have hearing in one of her ears
I
for
think
the
it's her
remainder of the games.
Right. And she talks about how this is a huge liability because she uses her hearing for hunting and, keeping vigilant about what's going on around her.
But while Katniss was working on this, Rue was setting off decoy fires to attract the careers. But by the time Katniss makes it back to Rue, she's been captured, and she is then killed by District 1's male tribute, who's played by Jack Quaid. And in the book, they do spend more time building their bond, and Katniss's grief and rage are deeply personal when Rue dies. And the movie does capture it well, but the scene is much shorter. And then you do also get the uprising in District 11, which isn't in the book at all.
But I loved seeing it.
Yeah, that was a big shift, and it was smart.
There was a scene in the book, so I really like that they did that. There was a scene in the book, after she's singing to Rue, where, sorry, I have to talk about the scene because it really
it's all right,
hurt
I'll
me.
be okay.
It really was. Whenever it's so uncommon or it doesn't happen when other districts will send things to other tributes that are not from their district.
Even for a district to send things to their own tribute doesn't happen often because these gifts from sponsors cost so much money.
Especially as the games go on. The longer the games go on, the higher the prices. And Rue's district sends, after she does this for Rue, because she also basically has a little almost a little funeral for Rue, which is very against the capital. You do not do that in the Hunger Games. and does that for her. And so the district sends her just like a loaf of bread from their district.
Mm-hmm.
And that really had me sobbing. I was sobbing.
The
That's not in the
whole thing.
movie, but the book, when that happened, really hit so hard. I was like, I was literally like yelling, sobbing. That was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
My
Like,
kid was
so,
big
like,
scared.
incredible.
He was like, are you sad? And I was like, yes,
He said,
very.
breathe in and out.
He was like, take a deep breath. I was like, okay. And then I cried even harder. These freaking kids kill me, I swear. I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
But at this point, in both versions, there is a rule change that allows two tributes from the same district to win together. And there's only two districts that have both of their tributes: District 2, which are Kato and Clove, and District 12. So Katniss finds Peeta. He has been injured by Kato for helping Katniss escape after the Tracker Jacker incident, and they end up hiding in a cave. And in the book, Katniss debates whether she has real feelings for him or if it's just strategy. And this internal conflict is huge.
Mhm.
Mhm. Because she doesn't know how he feels either, whether he's doing it for
And
in
because
order
they're
to get
being
them.
recorded the whole
Yeah.
time, there's
Mhm.
cameras everywhere. They
Mhm.
can't just ask each other,
Right.
Yeah.
you know?
And because Peeta's injured, he isn't able to do much. And his wound becomes infected, and he's sick. So the game makers hold a feast, which will provide each district with what they need the most. And Peeta doesn't want Katniss to go, but Katniss knows that he's going to die without the medicine that she knows will be included in the feast.
Because he has blood poisoning at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So in the book, Haymitch convinces the sponsors to send a medicine that will put Peeta to sleep.
I actually really like that in the book.
When he's
I thought
trying
that
to.
was actually pretty great because honestly, he would have woke he in the movie, they don't put this in the movie, and she just goes whenever he's asleep
Mhm,
and just leaves. He
mhm,
would have woken up you're
Yeah.
you're somebody moves a little bit, you kind of just your head's on a swivel
mhm,
when you're in this type of environment.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
not gonna
maybe
be a
not
deep
whenever you're
sleeper.
yeah, maybe not whenever you're on the verge of dying like he
mhm,
is, but I'm the fact that Haymitch was sending her that or getting sponsors to send her medicine to make him basically to pass out so she can go do this.
mhm.
I forgot that happened in the book, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's great."
He does end up sending like a broth that
Mhm.
Peeta drinks.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure if they were insinuating that maybe the broth was drugged with like sleep medication.
Right.
Mhm.
But either
I,
way, when Peeta's asleep, she does go to the
Yeah.
feast.
I do love how in the book the specific gifts that are sent from sponsors to Katniss, they don't come with a little message like they do in the movie,
Mhm,
but Katniss, because she knows that Haymitch can control what and when she
mhm,
gets those gifts, she knows he's kind of trying to communicate with her, and she's trying to get in his head, what is he trying to tell me? What is he trying to
mhm,
tell me? We don't see
Mhm.
that quite as much in the movie, but it really gives us that much more insight into her strategy and her thought process. And again, lets us know a little bit more about Haymitch and how alike those two are,
mhm,
which I love.
Mhm.
It's a
mhm.
grump and a grump in this situation, but I still love
It's
Yeah.
like
it.
father daughter.
Right. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think with Katniss's father having died when she was so young, she doesn't even realize it yet, but she is looking to him as a father figure.
Yeah, I think he sees a lot of himself, like you said, in her.
But during the feast, Katniss finds that Foxface was hiding in the cornucopia, and she's able to grab her pack and get away without any issues. But when Katniss goes for her pack, she is attacked by Clove. And while Clove is holding Katniss down, she brags about what happened to Rue. And in a turn of events, the boy from Rue's district saves Katniss by taking Clove out. And then he spares Katniss's life as payment for what she did for Rue.
That made me cry too.
Yep.
Thresh, when he literally is like, just this one time, 12, like, this is my payment. And it kind of like shows like they know like a barter system to each other. Like they
Because
know
they're
like
both
you did something
poor.
for me. Yeah. You did
Yep.
something for me. And like this is my payback, and now we're even. Moving forward, I'm gonna go my way, you go your way, and that's how it is. And they
The debt
talk
is
about that in
paid.
the book. Yeah, the debt is paid. We're done. And I think it's really well told in the book.
So Katniss is able to save Peeta, and
he's pissed. He's like, "Really? You freaking lied."
Yep.
She's got a cut. He woke up to her, blood, like soaked in blood, because she had a cut on her head. And he literally was like, "What the hell? Why you do this?"
And she's like, "Shut up, you're cured now."
Yeah.
You're alive. You made it. So they begin to forage and hunt for food because Peeta's doing much better. Obviously, the medicine from the capital is like magic. It's like it's healed almost instantly.
I love in the book, Peeta's so freaking useless. He's
I was
so
about to say
freaking
the
useless.
same thing.
I'm telling you. And I love it because like it again, like in the book, in her Katniss's perspective, she's like, this is why I can't love him, because he doesn't understand me and he'll never understand this. And like moving through the woods quietly and knowing what is safe to eat and what isn't safe to eat. And like, cause he's having to ask her, well, what should I do? Or what do you want me to do? Or, you know, and she's like, why? It's like treating a child in the life that she has to live. Right. It highlights those differences, even though they both were different kinds of poor. They're not the same. You know what I mean? And she's realizing this, and she's going back to like, you know, no, I don't love him. I'm just trying to survive, and this is smart. And we see that back and forth. He's so freaking useless.
Yeah. And then like he's like stomping through like the forest, and she's like, he's literally like an elephant, like stomping through this forest. Like he's probably so quiet, but like to her, with like how she knows how to walk through the forest to hunt,
half deaf.
Like, you're so loud.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Yep.
She's like, just go over here. Like you're just upsetting me. But like she goes through these phases where she's like, I can't like see anything. Like he is so different than me and all this stuff. But then like she's like, I would risk everything to keep this man alive. Like this is everything to me. And
she's
she
got
just
a lot of internal
continuously
conflict.
So much internal. And honestly, it's like this through the entire series.
Yep.
Because she doesn't know what's real or what's fake,
what's manufactured, for
everybody else.
Are you doing this for the cameras, or do you really care about me? You know?
Yeah,
it's the influencer life, man.
Not the influencer life.
But while Katniss is hunting, she hears the death cannon go off, and she's afraid that Cato has gotten to Peeta. However, they discover Foxface has gotten into the berries that Peeta is collecting, and the berries are nightlock. They're poisonous.
Because he's an idiot.
Peeta has accidentally taken out Foxface, leaving only District 12 and Kato.
And in the book, this is very much like, she's like, no. He's like, oh, she, like, I forget why he says he thinks that she died. And Katniss has to tell him, like, no, like, you kind of killed her. Like, technically, you kind of killed her because she ate the berries that you were picking.
Yeah,
in the book, at this point, it's actually Kato, Thresh, Foxface, Peeta, and Katniss.
Yeah.
right.
But in the movie, they insinuate that Kato took out Thresh. Or,
Already, yeah.
unless I'm saying it backwards. But yeah, at this point in the movie, Thresh is...
I know. In the movie, I think Thresh is taken out by those...
The mutts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said it backwards.
Yeah. Also, in the movie at this point, I love that scene where she hears the cannon and she's running for Peeta, and it's like pure fear.
Yep.
Pure fear that she thinks that he had died. And I think that also shows like another internal conflict where she was already just like annoyed. Like, we know she was annoyed with them in the book, but like they really hyped up in the movie of being like,
she's mad, but she's mad because she was scared to lose him.
Exactly.
Yep. So then we get to the final fight with Kato, which plays out similarly in both versions, though the movie adds more mutts and dramatizes the cornucopia battle. It works, but it is less symbolic.
Also, and they leave out what the mutts actually are.
The mutts in the book sound way scarier than the ones in the movie.
They literally have the eyes of the fallen tributes.
And their fur is their hair colors.
Yeah.
It is insinuated that these mutts were literally made from the bodies of the fallen tributes.
She has to like think, she's like, are they those people?
Are they in there? Like, are they in there? Are they mad at us for having killed them? Are they trying to get retribution? Are they, it is terrifying.
And they can stand up on their hind legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point she sees what she thinks is the Rue mutt.
Yeah.
I mess me up again. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And that final battle leading to Kato's death is way more brutal in the book versus the movie.
And then
way more brutal.
The game makers leave Kato alive and suffering, slowly being eaten and torn apart by these mutts.
Yeah.
All night long. It isn't until the sun rises.
Katniss and Peeta are like huddled together waiting for like his misery to end.
Listening to him scream. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not ending. So then they, like, Katniss ends it for him. In the movie, it's quick. Like, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, they don't have to wait overnight.
No.
She does it immediately. But, surprise, surprise, the Capitol has decided to revoke the rule change and only one victor will be allowed to leave the arena. So we have a reappearance of the Nightlock berries. And in the book...
And Katniss, literally, she pulls that arrow on him, on Peeta. In the book, she's right. She, like, pulls it for a second, looking at Peeta, and she's like...
But Peeta turns kind of quickly to her, and it startles her. She thinks Peeta's coming at her.
And he has a knife.
Right, and so now she's starting to think, holy shit, it was all just a game to him. He was, so for half a second, then he's like, no, girl, and he drops that knife, And
at this point, he's extremely injured because he got bit by...
He's dying. He's actively dying.
He's bleeding to death.
Yeah, in his leg.
And in the book, Katniss knows that at this point, she's making a move against the Capitol. This is her stand. In the movie, it does feel more like a spur-of-the-moment emotional decision. It's still powerful, but it is less strategic. And then in the book, so they decided to take the berries, but the capital, they give in and they do extract the 2 winners of
Because
the
they
Hunger
have to
Games.
have a they have to have a victor. That is like, because that's like the whole point of having their audience being, quote, entertained by these games. Like, they have to have somebody win.
Mm-hmm. And in the book, PETA loses his leg.
Which was the most shocking thing. I did not remember. That's why I was
I
telling
didn't
you guys
remember it
that
either.
earlier.
I knew
I
what you
did
were
not
talking about.
remember that he lost his leg in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's not in the movie. And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot. Like, it was a triggered memory that I remembered this when I first read it. And then I was like, I totally forgot that this happened.
He came out with the cane, and I was like, what? They weren't able to fix him like they fixed Katniss's ear? And then I was like, oh, he lost his leg.
Something else that I thought that was really interesting that I noticed on this reread is that when they came out, because, immediately right after they just survived the Hunger Games, they're like slowly feeding them. And then they immediately have to be going into these interviews and stuff and talking about your experience, watching the replays of like what this was like with them and doing this whole thing. But two things that I really liked. She finally gets to see everybody, and the first person that she runs to is Hey Mitch. And that, like, my heart, the 2 people that clash so much before going in, she doesn't run to Cinna, who she really, like, adores. The first person she ran to was Hey Mitch, and, like, that was, like, they were solid together after that. And then something I did notice was, like, whenever she's getting dressed to do all these, like, interviews and stuff, they have to put on this suit that gives her, like, curves and all these things because she's been starving to death in this Hunger Games.
Right.
And Cinna's like, you have to put this on because Haymitch literally fought like crazy because they actually wanted to, like, do surgery on you to add curves to you. That was in the book. And I was like, that's insane.
Yep.
I do not remember reading that. And that's crazy because they don't want you to look like that you were just starving a couple days ago.
Yep.
And in the book, obviously, because PETA loses his leg in the book, they kind of explained that it was because of the tourniquet that Katniss used to stop the bleeding after the Mutt attack. So again, now she's feeling guilty about PETA losing his leg. So and
PETA's like, yes, I like the tourniquet that saved my life is also what caused me to lose my leg. But
I'm alive.
But I'm alive, He's clearly not mad at all, but she's, beating herself up for it.
And in the movie, it ends with President Snow glaring as he crowns the victors of the 74th Hunger Games. And the game master, Seneca Crane, meets his berry-filled demise because he is murdered for the way Katniss was able to one-up the Capitol.
Yeah.
And the book does end on a different note with Katniss realizing that she's now a pawn in something much bigger, as Haymitch is warning her that the Capitol's not pleased with what she's done.
Like the games are just beginning kind of thing.
And PETA's heartbroken because he's learned that Katniss may have faked her feelings the entire time. And it's complicated, it's messy, and it sets the stage for future rebellion.
And they're like about to go back to District 12. And she
But the
keeps
cameras
thinking
are
of
still
Gale
rolling,
too.
right?
She keeps thinking of Gale. She's like going back to Gale because that's like her, friendship that she's had for a really long time. He knows everything about her.
But the cameras are still rolling.
Yeah.
And so she can't just walk away from PETA and run into Gale's arms at this point, no matter how much she wants to.
Yeah. And something else we didn't talk about is that PETA said that his dad loved her
Katniss's mom. Yeah.
Katniss's mom. But Katniss ran away because they say Katniss's mom was from, what was it? Within District 12, was
It was an
within like the
apothecary's
merchant.
daughter.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
Yeah.
was within the merchant section, just like Peta's dad,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how he knew her, but she fell in love with the coal miner, and that's how they went into the seam,
Mhm.
and that's how, like, Peta's dad knew them.
And Peeta compares his feelings for Katniss the same way his dad explained his feelings for Katniss's mom.
Yeah, and he's been, like, in love with her since he, like, explains that he saw her for the first time, like, wearing, like, this, like, cute little dress and her pigtails, and, like, someone asked to sing, like, a certain song, and her hand, like, shot right up.
Mhm.
She knew
Mm-hmm.
all the words or whatever when they were, like, really young, and he's been, like, smitten ever since.
Mhm.
I'm just like, "Oh, we can't we're not even reading the second book
And this
yet."
is like, even when he's explaining this to Katniss, like they're still in the arena, the cameras are rolling, and
Yeah,
Katniss is like, "Oh, he's so good at faking this. He's so good at this." And then she's realizing, "Wait, this is a real story.
Mhm.
yeah,
This really happened. Oh my
mhm,
god,
Mhm.
does he really love me?" And this is when she's starting to unravel that, like, it might be more for Peeta than what it is for her.
mhm,
This might not be an act.
yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to be a difficult question or not, but what's our final verdicts?
Oh, book
The
for
book.
me, but the movie is still top tier.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, this is, like, a top-tier adaptation for me,
Mhm.
but book is just incredible, like, both are amazing. Book is just slightly a little bit better.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think the movie gets the big moments right, but if you want to truly understand Katniss and her motives and the political tension that's simmering beneath the surface,
Mhm.
the book absolutely takes the win.
And the movies just get better,
Mm,
too. They just get better.
I'm
Yep.
excited.
Me
Yeah,
too. I don't want to wait. I
I
hate
know.
this.
But that does bring us to our question of the episode. And since we are on our season finale, what was your favorite adaptation of season 2?
You all might be shocked on this one. We had a lot of really great books and movies and series this season that I rated really highly. I think this season, I don't think there was a single one that I just absolutely hated, or, but We Have Always Lived in the Castle, although was not like the highest tier rating for me, it has lived rent free in my brain for months at this point. I continuously think back on the sisters and, whether or not they were villains to begin with, or whether they were created villains, or how, like, I can't, it, that's the one. That's the one that I keep thinking of. That's the one that I keep going back to. And that's probably the one that I'm going to reread first.
I am a little surprised, especially because it was one of my picks.
I know, right?
I I I could not pick just one. I'm sorry.
It's fair.
I mean, I have, like, a tier list going. Aside from Hunger Games, I'm not gonna pick Hunger Games, but I like the different ones because of specific things. Like, I loved gushing over Hating Game with both of you because it's just, like, that was just, like, a fun time, and I just, like, love romance adaptations. Good Girls Guide was, like, a 6 star for me
That was
in
fun.
season 2, and
Mhm.
that was crazy, and that was really fun. Princess Bride was such a big moment for me as the adaptation. I didn't, like, love the book, but just because, like, we did such, like, a good deep dive on that,
Yeah,
and I
that was a fun
learned
one.
so much of, like, all the backstory of it and all
Mhm.
that stuff, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle because I can't stop thinking about it either.
I'm telling you,
Yes, but I think my very top one would have to be The Wild Robot.
I figured. Yeah.
Yeah, that will
it
have
was
to be my
so
top
good.
one.
So good.
Yeah, I really wanted to say the Hunger Games, but
Yeah.
I can't. So I said The Princess Bride
Mhm.
because I was really glad to finally be able to read the book,
Mhm.
where you always hear about the movie and you finally get the source material. And I actually really did I liked the humor. I liked how it was
Mhm.
written. I thought it was unique. So I
Right.
did really enjoy that one.
Yeah, and I
It had
love that we
such a
got
good
so much
season.
backstory. Like, we got
Yes.
so much backstory about how everything was filmed and all that
Because
stuff,
there's
and that was
books
so
about
fun.
the book. You
Yes,
know
and
what
I
I
love
mean?
that.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
We had such a great season. We really did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting at times.
It was.
Interesting, but fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. But The Hunger Games is the first book in Suzanne Collins' dystopian series. And here at Based on a Book, we'll be covering each installment across upcoming seasons. So don't worry, this is just the beginning of our time in Panem. The stakes get higher, the rebellion gets louder, and yes, we'll be there for every moment. And just like that, the arena goes quiet. We've reached our end of the Hunger Games and the end of season 2 of Based on a Book. Whether you volunteered as tribute or you were just here for the slander, we're so glad you made it through the games and another season with us. Thank you for listening, laughing, gasping, and spiraling through every adaptation, plot twist, and unhinged theory we've thrown your way. Your support means the world to us, and we seriously couldn't do it without you. Now, before you panic, yes, we are taking July off from releasing new episodes. But don't worry, we'll still be hanging out on socials, sharing bonus content, behind the scenes chaos, and maybe even a few sneak peeks of what's to come. And then in August, we're back and ready to kick off season 3 with even more book to screen breakdowns, new series, and probably more yelling.
True.
So rest up, stay hydrated, and may the podcast be ever in your favor. And we'll catch you in the next season of Based on a Book. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.